Welcome everybody to Data Innovation Summit 2020. Our next session here, I have with me Antti from Solita. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, nice to meet you all. My name is Antti Loukiala. I work at the Solita as a tech lead for data platforms. Been working for 10 years in the world of BI, and for the past 4 years as a data architect, data engineer, working on these data platforms.
Cool. Well, it's pretty neat. This past year, 2020, has given a lot of companies the opportunity to really focus inwards, given the new circumstances, and rethink what their strategy is for big data, advanced analytics, and AI. Can you tell me a little bit how 2020 has changed things for Solita, if at all?
Well, yeah, of course, it has been a big change. But like all the companies, we're working from home and try to be safe. And I find that there's a lot of positives out of this. When it comes to working with the customers, I feel that there's a really good sort of culture going along where we are able to actually work from abroad, and all these new technologies are really helping to do that. So I would say that it's not changed a lot, but of course it changes everything.
Right. All right. Let's dive straight into it. I'd like to hear your thoughts a little bit on what is critical if you want to be successful with becoming data-driven from a technical perspective.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm gonna dodge it a bit. So, we have worked with a lot of companies on these data-related projects, and we sort of come out with this kind of abstraction out of them that it actually is to become a data-driven. It touches on a lot of the things at the company. We have developed this data-driven puzzle, which is basically 9 pieces that you can sort of take a look at it. How well are you prepared for it? Where you should focus on, and how to sort of uplift your data-drivenness. So I'm not going to go through those nine steps. We have some good material on it, but if you look at it a bit from a wider range, you can really see that it touches on everything. So it touches on your culture, of course, your core business, your leaderships. You have to see data as an asset. And of course, technology is really key part of it. So I would say that if you have all those 9 pieces in place, then the tech becomes easy. And that's what we like to say, that the culture is the hard part. The tech is the easy one.
I think a lot of people, they say that. They say that the tech is easy, but it's only easy because a lot of tech people have a can-do attitude. But it helps to convince people by describing in practice how we would solve things in tech. Can you tell me a little bit about what an actual modern architecture in tech consists of for becoming data-driven?
Yeah, sure. So as mentioned, working on this project, we have also discovered that, in building a data platform, you have this kind of architecture that comes out of it. You tend to do similar things all the time. But what you're actually after with the platforms is that you want to create valuable interactions between data producers and data consumers. And the data platform is there to help to do that. So it's actually, of course, the data is somewhere. So the data is in applications. It's all over the company. Those applications are owned by different domains. So, for example, HR, manufacturing, what have you. But then other domains are actually, they want to get hands on that data so that they can start building their business cases around that core business that you have. So then the data platform becomes steps in there, that how do you actually connect these two? And of course, there's typically, you have data ingestion, you have data storage, data wrangling, data publishing, and data channels of how you connect them to the others. So these things happen all the time. But then there's, of course, each data platform you can't have a generic one in order to drive really through, but you build it for your cases. And out of these sort of technical things, you have different things around it. You have cloud governance, you have data governance, you have enterprise architecture. It has to align with that as well. And of course, the modern like a data DevOps, data ops ways of doing it. So out of all of these, you sort of have this data platform architecture. And we have some good material around that too. So I won't go too deep into that. You can check it out from our virtual stand and so on.
I really like the idea of contextualizing it as a producer of data and a consumer of data. And you can think of it both in terms of a business producer and a business consumer, or from a very technical perspective. But let's put a pin in that for one moment. And can you tell me a little bit more about one thing you just said now that piqued my interest, which is that you can't have a general purpose data platform. So now for the past 10 years, we've been hearing from these data lake companies and data platform companies, the incumbents, that there is a sort of single platform that you can use that serves all big data and advanced analytics needs. Is that what you're referring to, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's so the data platform, of course, consists of different parts. So you have typically a data lake or the data storage, a data warehouse there, and of course there's vendors that offer a really good solutions to those. But then it's about your core business. I'm going back to that again. So you want to create value out of that data. You want to have your decisions based on the data. And of course, the decisions in the business is yours. It's specifically to you. So therefore, you have to mix and match a lot of different vendors, or you build it yourself in order to come up with the best solution to your need. So I really like this saying that you should choose the best tool for the job. And at times when you start mixing these, of course, the possibilities are endless, the way you can mix and match these. So it's I would say yes and no. There's a lot of really good vendors that can do a lot, but then it's about combining to create that whole.
What are the typical things that sort of need to be added to these types of systems? You can buy an appliance from one of the incumbent blue chip companies, or you can buy one of the popular data lake solutions. What beyond those is usually a tool that leads to success? Like what kind of things do people usually forget to incorporate into their modern data platform initiatives?
Yeah, well, I think, of course, the data lake, the data storage is kind of key because you have to have it somewhere in order to start distributing it. But then we want to democratize data. So we want to create those value creating interactions. But in order those to happen, you have to discover the data. And well, first you have to store it, make it standardized, easy read, add some metadata to it so people understand where it's coming from, what does it mean. So out of those, actually, what I feel that it's one of those things that might be good to be in place before you start doing anything, and it's a data catalog. Because once you have a data catalog, then you can sort of pinpoint everyone, like go there you can discover what kind of data we have. And that starts to create that data democratization, because then people get to see what kind of data assets we have. Data starts to become an asset, and we start to focus on those business cases instead of wrangling with the data.
Right. What about development and developers? A lot of these tools are very centered on the usage of the data, the automatic processing. And then you have sort of a team of subject matter experts that are continuously developing. And I've gotten the sense that sometimes you end up with these two islands, this hack and slash set of tools with modern languages, modern libraries, and then sort of the enterprise half. And then it becomes a big job to sort of translate these proof of concepts or these jobs that they've done in the play environment, if you will, and put them into the enterprise environment. Do you see them as staying separate, or should they be merged together?
I think if we think about the world of data and what have you, it is lacking some years behind development, like DevOps, let's say. And I think a lot of these things have been solved in the world of DevOps. So in that sense, I feel that we have to sort of, in the world of data, and especially in the world of machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is maybe lacking even a bit more behind, we have to take a jump. And what I find really cool and nice is that the DevOps has solved a lot of the issues. We just have to understand how to translate those into the world of data. And therefore, you have these kind of terms like data ops and ML ops and AI ops and what have you, to sort of pick up the speed. And I think it is that you have to have it in, of course, proof of concept or something. You do them, or you might throw them in the trash and then understand that, okay, this concept actually works, and then you start building it. But you have to make them, you have to automate everything. And I find that we have this tool called Agile Data Engine, which is exactly helping to do this. So it is actually a tool that helps you to build, deploy, and maintain and run cloud-based data warehouses. And it actually sort of incorporates everything. So it kind of, I feel that it kind of takes that, that couple year difference that you have in the world of data and development, and it tries to, catch up so that you can actually apply the best practices of DevOps, which has been around for a long time, and apply those to the world of data so that you can actually build enterprise-ready solutions sort of right off the bat.
Let me ask you, is there a difference between the way, say, web app developers do operations and the way advanced analytics practitioners do operations? Is it as easy as just taking the tools and techniques that web developers have been using and applying them to data science, or does it take something more specific to data science and advanced analytics?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, if you go abstract enough, we're doing the same thing. We're doing algorithms, and we're doing producing code. But that there is, of course, certain differences, and you have to take those into consideration. So when you're doing, for example, ML ops, you train the model, you deploy the model, you test the model, and then you want to reiterate the model. So it's not one-to-one. But I think going to the fundamentals of it, we shouldn't make excuses why we don't do the fundamentals of it.
Right. Okay, so it shouldn't be an excuse, but it's worth looking towards the experts to find the right way of doing ML ops in specific.
Yes, exactly. And the same applies for the data ops. And I think those things, those terms hold a lot of good behind them. So data ops and ML ops, and that's what they're after. You want to automate things, you want to make them modern, and you want to make them work so that they're easy to operate.
Is this a stumbling block that customers typically get stuck on in its entirety? Or do you find that there's one stage? You mentioned that in your methodology, you have 9 different steps. Is it that one step is extremely difficult and the rest of them sort of lend themselves more easily? Or do you feel that the concept of operations when it comes to advanced analytics as a whole is just sort of foreign? Which of the two is it? And if it's more detailed, which one?
Yeah, I would go back to, of course, the machine learning. It's the background where it's coming from. It's not from the software development. It might come from math or statistics, and therefore the background that you have on the people doing it's a difference. So that creates not a gap, but a different mindset, let's say. So if you're specialized in development, the way you do that, it's different. But those 9 steps, I would say the hardest part is the culture. So it's you can gather the data and you can make it available and in a nice, clean way and really high quality, and you have machine learning in there, all the machine learning and how to make it operational, everything's in place. But it's not until your company has the culture that we wanna use the data, we wanna base our decisions on data, we wanna utilize the data. It's not until that's in place that you can truly become data driven and start using that data. Otherwise, it's just tech.
What is the right way to catalyze that? Because we've been speaking today in some of our other sessions about having evangelists that speak for a certain use case, having executive buy-in, that the people that are close to the ground that do operations, that they're the most in touch with what provides the most value. Where do you catalyze this type of culture change? And which one actually gets the desired effect?
Yeah, I think I've seen cases where this sort of comes from the grassroots, so that someone discovers something really cool and it sort of picks up speed, and it's truly a data driven, and that sort of creates this kind of how do you say envy of others, and they want to sort of tap into it as well. And that happens. But of course, the more core you are to the business, so all the way from strategy to from vision, from mission. So if the data is part of that, then it sort of triples down in the right way. And the leaders have, of course, the leaderships is in very important aspect. So, I mean, it's kind of the bigger changes you do to the core business with the data, the higher the impact. The more you are on the outer rings, of course, the impact might not be as big.
Speaking of willingness to change, that does require a certain daring. And it's easier to do something when you've seen other people do it before you. And all the vendors that are running around now, they're talking about these use cases that you hear over and over. You know, reducing churn, predictive maintenance, and all that kind of stuff. Of the cases that you at Solita work with, the ones that are successful, are they the bread and butter, the ones that you hear about all the time? Or are they very unique and specific to the business? And what I mean is, are they these typical chatbots or reducing churn cases, or are they more unique to the business?
Yeah, I would say that they range a lot. So because we're dealing with a lot of different customers. So manufacturing, telecommunications, retail, everything. So all of them have their own niche. Some of the things repeat within certain domains. If you say that, like telecommunications has a different vibe to it, and they seem to solve similar cases. But I would say that it is to the business, and it's kind of if your vision and your mission and your strategy is specific, and you want to drive those things, then of course the applications that you build, the algorithms, the data discoveries happen in that field, and they become more specific. But of course, all of them have customers. The customer is the king, so that is an essential of many of the cases.
At what stage do you find that you're able to help the customer push through those changes? I was speaking with others before where they were saying that a lot of times customers come with an idea and then ask you to implement it. But at that stage, it might already be too late to do the right thing. Do customers often come to you with ready ideas, or do you start at the ideation phase?
That's a very good question. I think there's one thing to tap on is that in many cases, the data and cloud, they are a really nice match, because in the cloud, you have the space, you can scale from 0 to, well, almost infinity. And you have these ways of doing algorithms, machine learning, and it doesn't cost you too much. So it's a good way to test drive stuff. So in some cases, it is that the customers are looking for a way to get started with the data journey. So they're looking for how to go to the cloud, how to move to the cloud, and what have you. But of course, there's other cases when they have sort of an idea, very good idea, that let's do the tech part. But then also what happens every now and then is that there is that idea that we have done all the research and we want to do this tech, but we sort of make the customer reevaluate them and do some service design on that topic. And usually those are very, very interesting and valuable, because that does not only give the customer a second opinion, but it might give more insight to it. And that insight is actually very helpful to building the tech. So then you actually get a better understanding of why it's being built, what's the customer actually after, and what we are trying to achieve. So we have this customer service, we'll call it a department, and they are exactly after this. Sort of maybe reevaluate customers' ideas, or even help customers from scratch to find these new ideas and sort of apps, if you want to call them.
So when you meet a new customer, and I've found myself that sometimes you come to a customer and they have everything in the cloud. They say that they're open to trying, new technologies and that kind of thing. And I think, okay, this is going to be easier than not. Some customers don't have those prerequisites in place. What are the prerequisites that you find really enable you to get hit the ground running, so to speak? Technical prerequisites, and maybe mind prerequisites.
Yeah, I would say that one thing is working agile, and I mean, if you're really in an agile way of working, and you're willing to fail fast, and you're sort of willing to test and work iteratively towards the goal, I think that helps a lot. So if you truly are agile, then you have a really good base to start doing stuff. Of course, if we think about from the tech perspective, having a base set of skills it's really valuable. So meaning that if you're in a cloud, you have own expertise that understands the cloud and can operate it. If you have different applications, you have expertise on those and working from there. So I think a basic skill set helps a lot, but I think agile ways of working will get you even faster there.
All right, so you're talking about having these prerequisites in place when it comes to technical prerequisites and mindset prerequisites. And a topic that's come up with a lot of the people we've been speaking to during this conference has been that it's been very tough to get a hold of the right technical skills, technical competences, whether that's in data engineering or mathematics or whatever, really, even the meta categories of overseeing these types of projects in their entirety. What functions do consultancies have in adding value here? Where can they add the most value? Is it really in the specific technical competencies, or is it in the broad strokes? Where do you see yourselves really filling the best function for companies? And is there a difference between small and big companies in that respect?
Yeah, I think you have of course like a domain expertise, which is what is in the company. So then typically when we come in to help is what we call is to get started on a data journey or a cloud journey. And of course, to give a different perspective, as I mentioned before, on the service design. So what are we actually building? Let's have a second look at it, or maybe help you do the service design so that it actually matches exactly what you're after. So I would say that, and how we see at Solita is that we want to. It's not that we want to own the project. It is that we want the company to thrive. We want to make impact that lasts. That's our statement. And that means that after we leave, everything should be rolling. It's not depending on us. And therefore, I think it is important to have that consultants can come in and educate the people and grow that skill set within the company so that they can become what they're after to become, and help on that journey. Because in many cases you have like cloud, it can be quite a bit of tackle to sort of start from scratch, but you might have a lot of very good competencies within the company that just need pushing in the right direction to get going. And when it comes to big and small companies, of course, in the bigger companies, you might have more resources behind it. So I would say that there isn't too much of a difference. But of course, the bigger are big.
I think there's an issue of a chicken and egg situation where it's very hard to verbalize what your needs are when you don't already have the competence in-house. What kind of specific skills can consultancies bring that they then would transfer to the company that's just getting started with advanced analytics?
Yeah, that's a good one. So usually, as mentioned earlier, the companies have their domain knowledge, but they might be lacking some heavy machine learning or artificial intelligence skills, or it might be data modeling or something like that. So what we can bring then is sort of a competency to sort of connect with the domain knowledge and then get you kickstarted on it. And for example, if you go to like machine learning ops, ML ops and such, get you that in place. So then you get going and you can pick it up from there. And of course, like the HL data engine that we have customers who are using it fully without us, of course. That's the whole point of it. And so we have a SWAT team that can come in, help you get started, install everything, show you around, show you bits and pieces, and then off you go. You can pick it up from there. So I think it's always like it's a good point that in many cases it is that, should I first invest in getting the skills in-house, or should I get a consultant to get it going? I think the best scenarios are the ones that you have consultants, but you have a peer on your side who's working with it. So then it is sort of a team that's formed, the team that is part consultants, part from in-house, and off from there it goes.
I think it's very easy to dismiss the soft skills because it's hard to put your finger on it. You know, it's not easy to actually make it concrete what it is that this communication between the techie people and the business people actually involves. And tech people tend to be problem solvers. Yeah, we can probably figure this out. So that value that's there, can you give a nice example of that type of communication and where it really has been pivotal? Maybe an example of something you've done in the past year where that's happened.
Yeah, it actually goes a bit broader, but one of our customers came to us saying that, you know, we solved this idea and we asked our customers, and this is what they want, and we want to now build a technical solution to it. And we were, of course, interested in building it, but what we actually said was that, you know, let's take a moment and do a bit of reevaluation. You know, let's do a sanity check on it. And this went to the service design sort of side of things. And what they did was that they went through the idea, how the idea was formed. They did some more customer reviews, and actually the end result was quite different. So the assumption that the customer had was actually quite wrong. Unfortunately, I can't go deeper into it, but it was so that the customer was assuming that their customer is after a better customer service, when it actually was more about faster replies, not as a better and nicer voice at the end of the phone. And that actually changed the whole technical application. And it was done at such an early phase that the cost of changing it wasn't too bad.
And does that mean that is it necessary? Because I can imagine that companies are apprehensive of letting outsiders into their business reality and sort of saying, well, we know our business, you just help us with the tech part. Would you say it's a necessity for the people that are implementing advanced analytics to be privy to the business reality? Or can you work without that?
Yeah, I think you have to be part of the business and understand it in sort of order to actually create the value. Applying just math, it gets you really bad results. There was actually this one customer case where the consultants came in. The customer gave all the data to the consultants. The consultant said that this is the end result. This is how you fix everything. But it was so that the two values that were used to predict the actual result was so that the one value was the set value and another one was the actual value that followed it. So they actually, there wasn't any discovery made. So applying math to data, applying machine learning to data without understanding the problem deeply, it can be quite hard to come up with anything reasonable.
Right. So it does make sense to let in consultants that have an experience of doing it many, many times over and seeing both the successes and the failures and knowing what to look out for in any case.
Yes, and I think it's also, of course, coming from a statistical background or a machine learning background to a specific domain, the domain can be very, very complex or simple, but it is the idea that you have to get into it. So you need the pair, the one from the customer side and one from the consultancy, and together they can come up with a solution. And of course, with the time, both of them develop skills from one another, and then they can even develop better and better solutions. And also, it's good to keep in mind that at sometimes these kind of black box solutions, if you have in machine learning, might not actually be the best solutions. So even though they might produce the best result, it is the simpler and more understandable formula, linear or what have you, that actually explains the phenomenon better and knows how to react to it. So you might want to start with that and then get into more complex and complex when you can trust them more and more.
Makes sense. All right, Antti, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a really good conversation, and I hope the audience took some notes from what we went through now. I will be seeing you in the next session. Thank you.